Hey. Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of Almost in Focus. It's actually got a name. It exists. Hey. It took longer than it needed to, but we've come up with a name. Tom's going to tell you why it's called Almost in Focus.
Okay, I was about to ask you to do that, but I will. We ramble, and we rambled a lot on episode 0, and we did not stay on track with our plan. We went off on all sorts of weird tangents. We were almost in focus, and here we are.
We are now almost in focus. Copyrighted, TM, website being bought, you name it. Actually, we do need to buy the website.
So, thank you.
No one buy that website.
We probably need to do a website. We'll sort that out. So, thank you to those of you who have actually listened, and thank you even more to those who have given us feedback. We thought it might just be a couple of friends, listening out of curiosity/pity, but actually it's been more well received than we could have possibly imagined, really.
I think so. I think it's been a really positive experience from our side of things.
So
I don't know the people who've lost an hour of their lives to us.
So we've had comments and feedback from friends in photography, old students, but most spectacularly from my perspective is where we've had complete strangers actually give some insight from their perspective on our conversations through Blue Sky and Instagram. So thank you to those.
And we're international now. America, yep. Gibraltar,
and
Germany. Yeah. Oh, and the UK, which doesn't count. Yeah.
So thank you to everyone. And if you're here for round 2, you probably are insane.
You chose it.
Yeah.
We accept no liability.
Right. So on with the show. Toby, what's new for you? What have you been doing photographically this week?
So this week's been kind of an interesting one. I took my first year students out with a film camera, which is always a rewarding experience, but it was particularly good this time. We took a chance. We said we wouldn't talk gear, but I'm going to have a little gear moment. Instead of giving a bunch of 17-year-olds a Nikon F80 or a Pentax P70 or whatever that has autofocus and auto this and auto that, I took a chance and went for giving them an ME Super and a manual focus lens, and they loved it. They absolutely took to it like ducks to water. The joy on their faces as they wound film on something else. It really did. It properly cheered me up this week. I've still got to process the film with them on Friday, so we shall see how that goes. But it could all go horribly wrong. But
it's okay. But that's the beauty of teaching with film, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Do you know what? It was. We even had a little discussion because you forget these kids have grown up with digital cameras. They've grown up with mobile phones. Everything is digital. And I was trying to explain film to them, and they were like, "Well, how do you get a bigger picture? Is it like a Polaroid and that's it?" And explaining film to them was kind of interesting because obviously I just have no frame of reference that they're coming from. It's kind of weird. It also makes you feel very old.
I do know what you mean.
But their enthusiasm is infectious. It made me want to go out and do stuff, which I actually did today. Funnily enough, today's my day off from teaching, and I took my camera out and shot a roll of film. I mean, it's got to be processed as well, but it was nice to get out and shoot.
Where did you go?
Nowhere particularly exciting. I went to a local park and chatted to all the local strange people in the park during the middle of the day, like me, A couple of nice portraits, people with their dogs, dog walkers, bit of street. It's only 12 shots on what is known affectionately as my Trashika, which is the Yashica I bought off eBay and had to have lots of... Yeah, well, the Yashica Mat 124G that's had a hard life before I got it, purchased off eBay for the grand total of 80 quid, and then had an undisclosed amount, in case my wife listens to this, of money spent getting it working. and the people who repaired it at Not Quite North in Lincoln kind of hate it, and so it's affectionately known as the Trashika. But it's a good little hateful thing, and I enjoy using it, so... But it was nice. But that wouldn't have happened this week had I not been with my students. You know, having those kids be enthusiastic made me enthusiastic. So yeah, what about you? What's your week been?
I had a similar one today, actually. I've been on a trip with my students, went to Kew Gardens, and they are working on a live brief. So a live brief is where it's linked with a competition or something set by a company. So we're working with Analog Wonderland, which is a lab that I'm associated with, and they're just down the road from us here in Buckinghamshire. But also Ilford and the Ilford Student Awards, and the theme this year is the natural world. So Kew Gardens, beautiful opportunity. So we loaded all their cameras, we all went absolutely fine, and where you using an ME Super, I wish we were, because one of my students is using an Olympus OM10.
Oof.
And they got 2 or 3 frames in, and the battery died. And if you're not familiar with the Olympus OM10, it's a wonderful 35mm camera, but it is essentially an auto exposure camera, and the mirror's locked up, so she had to share with one of her friends. It was fine, but it was a frustration for her. But other students are saying, "Oh, are we going to process the films this week?" And they're really excited by it. So, yeah, that's really nice. What else have I been doing? I've been working with Hamish Gill, who runs... He's got his fingers in lots of pies. The 35mm C blog is probably one of his bigger projects, but he's been making scanning masks to help digitize analog photographs for a while, called a pixelator, and he's just about to do a Kickstarter for some large format ones. So these will go up to 6x17 centimeters or up to 10.8. Yeah, it's really nice. He's changed the design from the previous one, and he asked me to help with doing some marketing footage for the Kickstarter. So that's been what I've been doing this week. So we did a portrait in our studio with our 10.8 camera called Bruce. It is the boss. And processed that a few days ago, and so I've been doing some stuff with that. And it's nice doing these little things. It helps to break the monotony of work sleep kind of patterns, really.
Well, which, let's be honest, once you kind of finish university or arts education, that work sleep monotony kills creativity, and that's kind of, I think that's our theme really this week, isn't it? Creative constipation.
It really is. That was a nice little segue. There's a little segue into it then.
Yeah. You'd think we've been doing this for years.
So yes, our topic this week was that. This is actually your suggestion, really. It's a good one. A photographic creative block and ways around that, ways of dealing with that. This is something that's affected both of us a lot over the years in one way or another. Could you think of any examples for you where it's been really tough?
I mean, I'll admit, once I finished my degree, I don't think I picked a camera up for a couple of years. Every time you pick a camera up, you were like, why am I doing this? You over-question it. I'll tell you a project that really suffered with creative block. I started, 2007, something really ridiculous, photographing park benches. And
I remember that.
Yeah. And it was park benches or benches that look at stupid or ugly views. So, those benches where you sit down and you're staring at the back of usually a wall or, a public urinal or something unpleasant like that. Anyway, it was a project that I kind of really enjoyed, and and then it's ground to a halt. And these, just where do you go? What do you do next? And I'll admit some of that was because of some criticism from a unnamed photographer of reasonably high standing, but it's that kind of, because I couldn't see where it was going next, and then I just stopped, and you put the camera down, and there are many ways to get around that. You change the topic, you change the approach, but sometimes you do hit that creative block. What about yourself? I know you've hit creative walls.
Yeah, plenty of times, and actually around the same time I had a creative block as well. And I think so Toby and I both love learning. We loved going to university. We've both been back and done teacher training. We've gone back and done our masters. We both have aspirations of doing a PhD in the future. So I do not want what I'm about to say to sound like I'm criticising photographic education and the value of it. But
no.
we have both said to each other in the car in the past how we changed at university in not just as people but as photographers. And pre-university I would just load a camera with some film and go out. I would use Polaroid film and do street photography. That's insanely ridiculous and insanely expensive. It was fun, and that was the whole purpose. It was fun. And when we went to uni, there was such a value heightened onto us of the power of photography and what it can do, that every time you pick up a camera, you feel the sense of needing intent. And it's taken me a long time to sway that balance a little bit and find photographing for fun.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You know, used to be that you take your camera absolutely everywhere and shoot everything. I was the same. Whereas now, I'm better now. It took me years. But you almost feel, if this photo isn't wholly purpose-driven, if this isn't going to change the world, or isn't going to make me some money, why am I using my camera? And it's sad to think like that, but that's part of that creative block that you hit. So you know, it's
yeah. And about the same time you were doing the park bench stuff, I forgot about that project. I was photographing an orchestra, the Cardiff Philharmonic. I think it was.
It was. Yeah, I remember that work.
And I was at the rehearsals every Friday night. I remember travelling through very dodgy parts of Cardiff. Cardiff's lovely, but it has got some dodgy parts. To these rehearsals and photographing for 2 or 3 hours. And then when it came to doing the final edit, I lost track of the direction. And you're absolutely right. It feels like you're getting monotonous. And you don't know how to shake it up and adapt and change things. And it's very frustrating.
I mean, I think there are methods to doing this, and this is what we're talking about. This is what we're trying to get people to think about. There are other ways of breaking that monotony. You can shift the gear you use, you know, or the strategies to which you approach it. If you've been shooting at 35mm. Yeah, I'm thinking, like, if you've been shooting the whole thing 35mm with a 50mm or a 50-28, whatever, 135 or an 85 for portraits, and then you go, do you know what, I'm going to shoot it large format, tripod, studio light, complete 180 from like the 35mm documentary photography gold standard, shall I say. You know, you flip it, you change your approach, because you can't operate in that same speed by using a 5.4 or a 10.8. You change how you're looking at your topic or your subject. There's that. The other option is to change it completely and throw in a different process. You could decide that all your work's going to end up being found objects and cyanotypes to tell a story. But for me, that's a bit too far. Bit too arty.
Yeah, I do remember when I was doing my masters, one of my tutors, Leonie Hampton, she looked at the work I've been doing about traditional crafts, and I'd been photographing a silversmith, and in his studio, in his smith workshop, there was a balloon made of silver hanging. So this was an old piece of work he'd done that he just had sitting there. And she was really interested in this in the photograph, and started suggesting that I take it outside from the studio and put it on the grass and photographing it there. And I thought she was mad, and I basically told her so. I was very adamant I wasn't going to move stuff and interfere. But years later, I realised that she was completely and utterly right. Not necessarily on the grass, but yes, to actually take things out of situ and take them into the studio. And I did this after I realised this. And I started photographing objects to do with the crafts as a studio piece. And it completely lifted the narrative and helped it. And yeah, I should have been more open really to her suggestions at the time.
And that is actually something we should also address. When taking photographic education, and I am equally guilty of this, and I think you are, not taking the advice and thinking that you know better. There's the defence of your ideas, which is one thing, and then there's not listening to the words of wise individuals. And I think definitely on my BA, I mean, less so on my Masters, but definitely on my BA, and with one particular lecturer on my Masters who will remain nameless, almost out of pure contrary behaviour, everything that they suggested, I did the opposite.
You are one of the most stubborn people I've ever met.
I will wear that as a badge of honour. But yes, I am. But usually, I'm right. However, this is a moment. Is everyone ready? This is documented for the ages. I'm not always right. Just most of the time.
Can you say that again?
No, well, once was enough and it hurt. I think there were times where I was so adamant that I was right in terms of an approach to a project that I closed off avenues that could have been explored creatively. And then I ended up with creative block projects that became monotonous and didn't go anywhere. Sometimes you can think yourself into a corner. You know, you're so sure monotonous, what your project should look like.
Yeah, right. So when they become monotonous, what do you do? What's your automatic reaction to that monotony?
Put the camera down. That's my admitted. That's me being honest. Number one. That doesn't mean that's the right thing to do. The right thing would be to be sensible and to adapt my approach, but I will admit I get creative block and have to go and find something else to do. So the project has to be put on the back burner while I go and do something else. I might hit up a book. There's a particular book that we both own called The Photographer's Playbook, if you remember it. It's Aperture, I think, published it. It is it Aperture? Yes. I've just grabbed it. Yeah, it is. And it has, according to the front, 307 assignments. It does have this brilliant selection of photographic educators and professional photographers who've thrown together ideas, and what I tend to do if I'm really stuck is basically drop it on the floor and see what page it lands on. I've just flicked it open, and today I'm looking at Eva Sutton's suggestion, which is page 336, if you've got your copy. It says, take a photo, then add time, make it into a video, include other photographs, sound, text or video, then make it into a sound, turn it into a poem, turn the video, sound, poem back into a photograph, use any technique, analog or digital, to carry out these transformations. I mean, you take what you want from that, but it gives you kind of an idea of how you can reimagine your photographic image. And that was just by chance I found that one. I like that one.
I like that one a lot. I've got a friend who's a photographer, and he's actually now
Who's this friend?
From It's Paul Smith.
You're allowed
Paul
more
Smith,
than one
the
friend.
designer. I'm allowed more than one friend. Sorry, Toby. You're not the only person.
I'm disappointed in you.
And okay, so Paul Sebastian Smith, a really good photographer. We've collaborated in the past as well on some projects, and he's spent a lot of time over the last few years shifting from the photograph to finding other ways of telling his stories, and this is largely due to time constraints. So he's got a young family, and with having families comes constraints on your time, and he's now actually doing screenwriting. So rather than photographing what he wants to, he's imagining the conversations in those spaces, and he's describing the characters, the scenes, the stories of their lives as a play or a film, where he can't do it as a series of photographs.
Is that almost like, say, two photographers who are struggling to find the time to get out with their cameras making a podcast?
I think it possibly is.
Yep. I've often... Oh, sorry.
I said yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've often described creative block, or not being able to get out with my camera, as you get the sort of the addict's itch, and you start dreaming about projects. You wake up and you're dreaming about being out with your camera, and it is a little bit like being I imagine it's a little bit like being an addict. You know, you want to do something, you don't know what, but you'll do anything just to go and use your camera, just to get out, just to be creative. And when you like that, you can't do anything particularly good, because it's just a matter of you wanting to do something. And I think turning that into a productive thing, like this podcast for us, is the way forward, because going out with the camera isn't going to produce anything productive. But talking about this inspires good ideas, which makes good work.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was hardly doing anything photographic at all, really. It was only through teaching that I was really doing bits. And then when Analog Wonderland were looking for ambassadors to work with them and help promote their lab and the films they sell, etc., it was a perfect opportunity, and I was so glad that they included me in that program, because it's got me out and photographing, and not just photographing for projects and with the idea of that intent that we spoke about, but also just for fun, and going on photo walks and meeting other photographers and exploring together and sharing ideas is wonderful. I've really come to enjoy that in a way that I never thought was possible before.
Yeah, I think it's that other approach, isn't it? And engaging with others, talking to other photographers, talking to other people in the industry. It gives you a boost, like we were talking about seeing our students using those film cameras, like you were saying about your kids in Kew Gardens. Seeing someone else or speaking to someone else who's discovering something new enthuses you as an individual. Or that's my take on it. We have. Shall we dive back into something that we actually have put down on here on our glorious show notes, which are detailed and certainly organised. The One Roll Project. See, you're the big advocate of the One Roll Project.
I love a one roll project. So yeah, okay, yeah. The One Roll project, it kind of speaks for itself, really. If you haven't picked up a camera for a while, if you're struggling on what to photograph and you want to do something new, you want to try a different style or technique or film stock, if you are like us and enjoy analog, or different lighting if you're more into studio and you want to try something different, a one roll project is something you do that one time and you don't revisit it. It has a start and an end of 12 photographs or 36 photographs or 72 if you're using half frame, such as Pentax 17, the Alfie Titch. Oh, we're talking gear.
Bad lad.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. I'm doing these and they are great for me because I've got family. I don't have much time between job and family to get out and do big projects. But grabbing a camera, one roll of film, and then that's it. It can be done in a day, and I have achieved something. I get that sense of satisfaction. Yeah, they're great fun.
You get your photographic fix. That's it, and they keep the creativity going. I think realistically, when you look at those sort of one roll projects, what you're getting there is that snapshot. It is actually kind of like photography itself. It's a snapshot of a moment in time, which we talked about in episode 0, the use of photographs as a snapshot and a capture of a moment in time. The one roll project is sort of an extended version of that. You can tell a narrative in 36 shots or 24 or 12 or whatever the roll of film is, the set number you set yourself. But you have to do it. You have to complete it. It's not something that can go on and on and on. And speaking as the resident long-term project man, that's a bad thing.
It could be something as simple as just taking the word blue, and you only photograph things that you see which are blue, or it can be an event or a place,
which are so helpful, so simple, so free, by having such a broad spectrum of things you could do with just those simple starters. You could look at blue as in the colour blue, but you could also go down the road of like blues music or mood, the feeling of blue. You could take that in so many directions so easily, but only in a short period of time, because that's all you're allowed.
Yeah, I would honestly say if you're feeling like you have creative block and you just need to do something different, if you're working on a big project and it's feeling monotonous and you need to break from it, give yourself a week off, do a one roll project, and then come back and revisit with a fresh mind. If you haven't picked up a camera for a while and you just want to get back into it, and you don't want to just be photos of your pets and cups of coffee, it's something to do to break the monotony, really.
Yeah, and I think we all need that, because that's the only way good projects get made, is if you walk away and come back. I was going to say, even if it's something like as simple as if you decide to put the camera down, engage in another creative activity, play music or write, or anything that involves using something creative, and then go back to your work with that mindset, because all creative arts are together. You're using the same part of your brain, but if you're sat there with your bass or your guitar or violin, if you're someone who's musically talented, you're exploring those other ideas and those other creative elements that then might inspire something in your photography. I mean, I hesitate to say go read poems, because they don't work for me, but they might work for someone else. I go and read a Russian journal. That always seems to get me back into taking pictures.
Joys of John Steinbeck.
Steinbeck's a brilliant writer. It depends on which Steinbeck you're reading, but I find a Russian journal to be my soul food of the mind. It's like a chicken soup.
I prefer tomato.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, you say about all arts are interlinked, and there's a quote that is almost like a mantra for me, and I know you agree with this as well, Toby, to a certain extent. This comes from Bruce Springsteen, who's one of my favourite musicians, a great songwriter. And he has this philosophy of 1 + 1 = 3. And it's about those magical moments of inspiration when the world isn't get up, go to work, go home, go to bed, and repeat. Because that's monotonous. And that is 1 + 1 = 2. But for him, the E Street Band and being on tour gives that excitement. For us, it's photography, and sometimes it won't always be there. That's okay. Sometimes it can't be there because it needs more time, it needs more energy or change in direction before you find that sort of that magic moment where it all just comes together.
Good photography takes time. You can take a really good photograph and no one appreciate it for 10 years. And then 10 years later somebody goes, that photograph is amazing. That says something about that decade. If you look at a lot of the stuff now from the 80s, it's got added significance because it's aged. The pictures themselves at the time were nothing because that's someone in a shop, that's someone kicking a football around, or just day-to-day activities that everyone experienced and everyone lived, but they've aged and become documents of record.
Yeah.
Which
my students a couple of years ago were looking at Nick Waplington Living Room. So
love that project.
This is so for me that's one of the most important documentary books because it was my gateway into documentary photography. It's not as spectacular as the Americans, but it was a connection for me. And where I was looking at it with a sense of nostalgia growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, and seeing some similarities and the awful carpets and those sofas, and it felt reminiscent of not necessarily my home, but maybe my nan's or friends or something. Just all kind of gelled together. My students were looking at it and they're like, "What? He's smoking there on the sofa with the kid next to him. Why is he doing it?" Because it was normal then, and now it's an alien idea to sit there indoors with a cigarette in your hand next to a baby. Yes, it still happens, but it's not such a common occurrence. And it was interesting to see that their interest in the photographs came from a completely different place. It came from this is an alien world rather than this is how I saw the world. And that's only through time.
Yeah, and that's that different. Yeah, time changes the context in which we see photographs, doesn't it? I mean, the quote is tragedy plus time equals comedy. Is that the quote?
Who said that?
I believe. Do you know what? I will double check because I'm not entirely sure. Who said that?
Comedy is tragedy plus time.
Steve Allen, apparently. So attributed to the comedian Steve Allen.
Oh, here it's saying it was Mark Twain.
I mean, I'd probably go with Mark Twain over.
Someone.
It was someone, but the point is, whoever it was, Mark Twain or an American comedian, that basically the photography is the same. You have to add time to get something new. I don't think it's necessarily tragedy and comedy, but it can be a totally different meaning from what was the intent when the image was made.
I've got another example of getting away from creative blocks. And it's in the photographer's playbook in a form as well. It's literally to do something completely alien to you. You would never normally visually do. And I think it's Brunberg and Channerin. They've got a page in that book.
Yeah.
And it's something that they actually did. They did this. They pretended to be someone else. They created a fictitious photographer, made work under that name, and got it published.
Yes.
And then disappeared again. I know they did it because a friend of mine used to work for them, and he told me. But I don't know who they pretended to be. I don't know who the fictitious photographer is. But there is some work out there, which is Brunberg and Chandler but under someone else's name.
But
because it's a different style to what they would normally do.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like that. I mean, there's also the idea of, and God help me, because I do hate a navel-gazing project, which is ironic because of my current body of work. But there's a photographer, and excuse me if the sound goes for a moment. I have to grab a book because I can't remember the name of the photographer. Amalia Ullman. Okay. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Is a photographer who, in the early days of social media, or early-ish days of social media, created a whole fake persona and documented a whole it girl persona as a way of exploring. Yes, you know it now.
The Argentinian, yes.
Yep. So she kind of created a false, or not a false image, but a whole new person. She created a person and made up a story for them, told a whole life story, including relationships and everything, and then eventually went, actually, sorry, this person doesn't exist. But again, it was that kind of idea of exploring from a different point of view, telling a story. And in some respects, that is documentary. In other respects, it's performance art. But it definitely commented on what's going on when you come to the social media side of things.
Yeah, okay. So for me, it doesn't fall into documentary because documentary is based on fact. Stylistically, there are elements that are taking influence from documentary. I'll give it that. But for me, what this reminds me of is something much more recent. And this was the photographer who won the Sony Photography Awards 4 years ago, with an AI image.
Oh.
And what I mean by that is where she's questioning the idea of what we put on the internet and how that is perceived as true, but actually it might not be, by creating this persona. That's not too dissimilar to a artist creating a portrait of someone who doesn't actually exist through AI and convincing the photographic world that it's real, only to then say, well, I fooled you. Raising that question of what we believe on the internet.
Well, yeah, and you mentioning AI, I can't remember. Jonas Skin, something like that. The Book of Reels, where he created a whole made-up town. Magnum photographer. It's an AI photo project. No, it's probably because I've pronounced his name horrifically wrong. But he created an entirely fake town with a fake backstory, fake industry, and they were all AI images. Yeah, the Book of Reels. Book, as in I read a book, of VELES, Fields. There's an interview about it on the Magnum website if anyone wants to have a read of that work. But the images look real and are in their nature documentary. It's just they're a documentary on something that doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah, I found it.
Yeah?
Yes, stylistically, they're either very obviously AI images, or it's kind of reminiscent of sort of 90s location portraiture. I'm thinking Philip Lorca de Corsia.
But then again, so that's another. It's that another sort of strategy, another strategy to approaching your work. Whether that fixes creative block or not is a different kettle of fish. Because is that even photography when it becomes that much AI image creating?
I think we need to add this onto our list for another session.
I think so.
Because
we definitely do.
Because I'm thinking Philip Toldano, he's been doing a lot of stuff the last couple of years about fictitious reportage, where he's using AI in a very dramatic way. So this started with a project last year called Another America, and it's almost like Joel Mayovitz style street photography, but the woman's hair's on fire and she's just walking down the street, or the city is underwater, and these very sort of almost surreal ideas in them. But over the last few days, he's been questioning things more politically poignant in certainly American society, but I think actually wider, I think in Western society, to do with the polarizing views that we are seeing in lots of places. And it's interesting how someone who is known for very emotive and subtle documentary work, so Days with My Father, is going into something that's so dramatically visual. And it is that shift in focus, and it's that shift into a different direction to try something new.
And I think that's definitely something we should explore in a future episode, although we should try and stay on topic.
Yeah, it is called Almost in Focus for a reason.
Yeah, but if you want to hear us discuss AI images in detail, tune in to a future episode as yet undecided.
I think we've covered all the things we jotted down, and a few more, which is quite nice. We are coming up towards an hour, and that's kind of the time frame we've had in mind for these. You've got an idea for this, though, haven't you?
I have. I think just before the end of our podcast, our ramble, that we should have an open-ended question that would ideally have our millions of followers rushing to their social media and tagging us with the hashtag Almost in Focus podcast, or on Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, Spotify, etc. And this week's open question, do you have it in front of you, or do I need to get my...
I've got it in front of me.
Oh,
though it's actually not really so much of a question, it's more of a, I suppose, a
statement.
We've obviously been talking about those blocks and how we overcome them, about projects where they've not really resolved themselves and they've just end up on the back burner. And I think it's fair to say that every photographer will have something in their work, project or a mindset, that stays unresolved, and it just can't quite be pinned down.
It's like a lack of confidence, or...
Yeah. So what, beyond the stuff that we've suggested, what can you do to shift past that and to find a way of, if not resolving it, moving in a new direction to keep your creative journey moving?
It'd be nice if people could hashtag us with their images that they've created that have been a response to what we've said.
That would be lovely.
If you decide to do a one-roll project, tag us.
Please do.
We haven't told them how often they're going to hear us.
We haven't. Should we tell them that?
Nah, just leave them guessing. No, we should. Okay. We have a plan.
You do it.
Okay, so the plan is, guys, every fortnight on a Friday, you'll get us ready for your Friday afternoon or Friday evening. Going to be released around about 4 o'clock. Is that the plan?
4 o'clock, sure, 5 o'clock. So, yeah. The commute home time.
Yeah, so as you get in that car on a Friday after a tough week at work, you can drive home listening to us two talk utter rubbish. It'll soothe you and prepare you for the weekend, or possibly drive you to drink.
We're hoping next time to have a guest coming in to chat about some of the things we said last time. Yeah. So we will not mention any names in case that doesn't work at this point, but that is our plan.
Yeah, don't tempt fate.
Yep, exactly. In the meantime, London's stereoscopic photo walk coming up. So the details for this are on photowalk.me. This is on the 19th of October. So that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. That's hosted by me. I did it last year. It was great fun. It's quite a long walk, so there's a part-way ending point on it as well. So if you're interested in 3D photography, please come along to that. I don't have anything else to say about in terms of what's coming up. Do you have anything?
No great event happening at the moment in the north of England, unfortunately. But if anyone's listening and does have an event they want us to share, drop us a message on probably best one is Instagram or photos to get hold of us, I'd have thought. So yeah.
Okay.
I think that's us for this evening.
That is it. So thank you so much for listening to the ramble. You probably need a strong cup of tea or maybe an alcoholic beverage if you're so inclined.
Well, and if it's past 5 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah. Have a wonderful weekend in the next couple of weeks, and we look forward to joining you again.
Yeah, thank you again for listening.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye for now.